Lordy, this turbine height thing is getting a bit ridiculous. JTolan is still trying to justify his 150-foot turbine height, which he then uses to justify a 6,500-foot height for Mount San Jacinto, when the official height is about 10,800 feet. So my video from a couple of days ago was showing that the green transformer box next to the turbine is not 4 feet. It's closer to 7 feet, and when you use 7 feet in your analysis, you get pretty close to the official hub height of the turbine, which is 226 feet. So since that video, JTolan has put out 3 more community posts trying to justify the height of the turbine and or the height of the transformer box. So the first community post was the utility pole one. What he's doing here is looking at the shadow length on this utility pole over here and using that length of the shadow and comparing it to the length of the shadow of the turbine. And as you can see, there are 5 utility pole shadows, which makes the turbine height about 5 times as high as the utility pole. And since JTolan desperately needs the height of the turbine to be 150 feet, he has very conveniently measured the utility pole to be 30 feet. So here he claims the standard utility pole is 40 feet tall, and 10 feet of that is buried below the surface, but the internet says differently. So here's Wikipedia. The standard utility pole in the United States is about 40 feet long and is buried about 6 feet in the ground. So already this one is saying that they're about 34 feet above the ground. I also found a few more specific articles, and this one is actually from a guy that works for Edison, which is the big electricity retailer in Southern California. And he says, generally poles are between 45 feet and 60 feet high. Of that, about 6 feet to 8 feet are usually buried in the ground, which obviously means 39 feet to 52 feet above the ground. I found this other article as well. California has over 4.2 million utility poles, most standing about 40 to 45 feet tall. And from that, I interpret that is as 40 to 45 feet above the ground. You can also do the shadow analysis. Oops. You can also do the shadow analysis with the utility pole that I did with the turbine. And don't get me wrong, he actually agrees, JTolan agrees with my method with the shadow length and stellarium and the trigonometry. And if you do that, the utility pole comes out to be about 42 feet. So he has undercounted or undermeasured the height of the pole. But guess what else he undercounted? He undercounted the number of utility pole shadows that fit into the shadow of the turbine. So he says it's 5. If you actually go and measure the pixels between his red lines, both at the standard pole and the turbine, it comes out to about 5.3 times. I wonder what the height of the turbine comes out to if you multiply the 42 feet of the utility pole by 5.3. Right, it's always interesting when the errors that people make are in support of their agenda. Anyway, the other interesting thing in this one is this little box here. He's saying that Google Earth seems to have some issues around this sloped desert hot spring zone and shows an incorrect ground distance of 333 feet between these turbines. So what he's actually done here is assume that his height of the turbine of 150 feet is correct, rather than the official source being correct. And then he's inferred from that 150-foot height that the distance between the 2 turbines is actually 222 feet, and not the 333 feet that you get when you measure it on Google Earth. And of course, rather than accepting that he's wrong, he thinks he's found a massive software bug in Google Earth where it gets distances wrong over the ground. Google Earth is actually incredibly accurate when it comes to measuring distances over the ground. So let's go to Desert Hot Springs High School, which is here. It has a running track that we can measure. All right, so There's the end of the 100-meter sprint. Let's go and measure the 100 meters from here, right there. There's the 90-meter mark, and there's the start of the 100 meters, and that is 100 meters and 6 centimeters. All right, let's go to the 110-meter hurdles. And that is 110 meters and 6 centimeters again. So that's incredibly accurate. They also have some tennis courts up here, and the tennis court has a standard length of 78 feet. So let's go and measure that. Go from there down to here, and that is 77.88 feet. So incredibly accurate. All right, so that's number one dealt with. All right, number two. Number two is kind of one that he put up as a joke, but what he's trying to show here is that if these green boxes are actually 7 feet tall, like I calculated in my video, then this is how he would look if he's standing next to it. And then what he's done is just use the laws of perspective to scale it back to this truck over here. And obviously he looks like a midget compared to the truck, and therefore the 7 foot height is wrong. So let's see if he's done this properly. So first of all, if you measure yourself at a certain size at 60 feet, and you want to calculate your size or your angular size at 390 feet, all you do is divide one by the other. So 390 feet divided by 60 feet is 6.5 times. All right, so let's go and actually measure how tall JTolan is in pixels. So from his tip of his toes up to his head. Oops, one more. There we go. And if you look up at the top here, you'll see how tall he is, 188 pixels. All right, so how many pixels should he be at 390 feet? All we do is divide that 188 pixels divided by 6.5, which is our ratio, and we get 29 pixels. So that's how big he should be over at the truck. Let's go and see how big he actually is over at the truck. A bit more. All right, so there is his toes, about there. And again, look at the top. And it's about there. He drew himself as 19 pixels. Interesting. All right, so I'll leave you guys to decide whether that's intentional or not. Like I said, all of his errors seem to be magically in favor of his own agenda. So you already know my opinion. If you actually scaled him to 29 pixels, let's do that. 27, 28, 29. Then guess what? He actually looks pretty much in proportion to the truck. And if he's in proportion to the truck here, then he's also in proportion to the green box back over here. And obviously that makes the green box about 7 feet tall and not 4 feet. So we can also do the same thing against his measurement for what he thinks he looks like against the green box, which is here. So let's measure him here. There we go. We've got about 311 pixels. And I keep closing my calculator. All right, so to work out how big he should be back at the truck, 311 pixels divided by our 6.5, and we get about 48 pixels. So let's go and draw 48 pixels back at the truck. All right, his toes. And again, watch the top bar to see my count. 30, 40, and we need 48, oh, 47, 48. And he looks like a giant. And which means that because this is scaled correctly, he'll also look like a giant back at the green box. And if he looks like a giant back at the green box, this means this is about 7 feet rather than 4 feet. Right, that's number 2 done. Okay, number 3. All right, so what he's doing here is a pretty similar thing to what he did in the last one, trying to scale the shipping containers up to the green transformer boxes. So obviously I could do the same thing as I did in the last one, but I wanted to show you something pretty cool in Google Earth. All right, so what I've done here is place a few polygons on the ground So I've put these polygons here at the turbines, and according to the database, they are 65 meters above the ground. What I've also done is put a few of the shipping containers in there. So a standard shipping container is 8.5 feet, which is about 2.6 meters. These aren't actually 3 meters tall. You can't actually put a feet value in this box to begin with. You can only put meters. But if I was to actually type in 3 meters, you'll see it grow. And if I type in 2.6 meters or 8.5 feet, you'll see it go back. So these are actually standard shipping container sizes. What I've also done is put a couple of boxes on the ground where the green transformer boxes are in the street view. So this one I've made 4 feet, which is 1.2 meters. So again, let's just do that to make sure. 1 and 1.2 or 4 feet. I've made this one 7 feet tall, which is 2.1 meters. Let's type in 2 meters and it shrinks. And let's go back to 2.1 meters. All right. Now what you can do is actually grab one of the raw images from Google Street View, which I have done like that. And I've set it to be 2.5 meters off the ground, which is the given height for the Google Street View camera. And then basically had to wiggle with all the settings to make sure that everything lines up. Which you can see everything lines up pretty well. So the turbines in the background, the shipping containers in the middle ground, but in the foreground, have a look at what a 4-foot box looks like compared to a 7-foot box. Right, so that's number 3 done. And if you think JTolan should just give up at this stage and accept that he's wrong, head over to his channel and please let him know.